Hi, my name is Stephen Blocker. Thank you very much for downloading our software. I'm going to give you a quick run through of what Muru can do for you, so that way you can jump right in and get a lot of use out of it. When you open the app, you'll see a bunch of things. You'll see a search bar at the top, a section that says Browse All Categories, and then a dashboard. The dashboard allows you to do a bunch of quick actions that I'm going to show you the longer ways of doing now, but by using this dashboard, you can jump to a lot of interesting and useful features that we have. Before getting into search or browse, if you click in the upper left corner above search, you'll see this little 3-line icon that opens up a panel on the left. Inside that panel, you'll see a button that says directory, and directory gives you a bunch of phone numbers for frequently called places that you use when on ambulance calls. Going from there, let's take a look at browse. So browse's overall function is to allow you to scan through a lot of the data that we have within the system. You should be noted that everything that we're showing you is relevant to you. So these will be your protocols, hospitals near you, the medications you carry on your ambulance, and the equipment you carry on your ambulance, and only medications and pieces of equipment that you are authorized to use. So looking at one of these, let's click at hospitals. Hospitals shows me a whole bunch of different capabilities of different hospitals near me. Let's do adult trauma 1. Looking at adult level trauma 1, I see a whole bunch of trauma 1 hospitals near my location, going from closest to farthest away. I can click on get call to call that hospital, get directions, navigates me to the hospital from where I am. And if I click inside the hospital, I see all this information on the hospital. This will include things like door codes, capabilities, where to send electronic healthcare records to, things like that, as well as sources. So in most of the places that you go through the app, you'll see a big source icon somewhere in there. The sources are always where we pull the information from. No matter what piece of information you're seeing, you can always trust that we are pulling it from the source you are authorized to follow, whether that be your medical director, your county department of health, your state department of health, or any other authority that you operate under. The sources always are pulled from that location, and that is the information that populates this application. So if you ever need to check a source, you can simply click on that source, and it'll bring you to the PDF or the web page that we've got this information from. After looking at hospitals, one more is medications. So looking at medications, I can scroll down to, let's say, epinephrine 1 to 1000. I can see 2 different ways I carry it, all the information on the epinephrine, other forms of epinephrine that I carry on the ambulance with me, the protocols that the epinephrine is used in, and where we got all this information from. So the formulary gave us all the information. Protocols and equipment are very similar to hospitals and medications. From there, let's talk about search. So search is really great in that it allows you to very quickly get to all the information you need. To start, it can do some of the things that we did in browse. So I can simply type in epi, and I get that same epi 1 to 1000 I was looking at before. I can also type in trauma 1 to see the closest trauma 1 hospitals to me, as you can see here. And lastly, I can also do one other thing, which is compare a hospital to a capability. So I can say, does a specific hospital have a burn center? And you can see that it says North Shore does not have a burn center. It shows you all of North Shore's capabilities, followed by the closest hospital to where I currently am, followed by hospitals that do have burn centers. From there, search gets a little more advanced. So, but really great pieces of search are the ability for it to pull up dosing information. So let's start by looking up ventricular fibrillation. Just by typing in that alone, I can immediately see the ventricular fibrillation protocol here, which I can just pull up and view. But one of the great things that we do here is that we don't always need to type in the full words. You can also use nicknames. So instead of typing in ventricular fibrillation every time, I can simply type in VF, and the same thing happens. You'll see this for a lot of different pieces of information here that we have. It understands a whole bunch of different nicknames for a lot of different things you talk about. From there, let's say I want that I only have this VF cardiac arrest, but I have it for a kid. Let's say they're 8 years old. and I'll immediately categorize to pediatric cardiac arrest instead. From there, I can then go and say I want to give epinephrine, and I get a dose card. This dose card tells me the protocol that it's pulling it from, the amount of epinephrine I should give, the concentration of 1 to 10,000, that's IVIO, and that it's bolus, and that's repeated every 3 to 5 minutes. After that, you'll see that it has an or followed by another version of epinephrine. The difference between the top and the bottom is that the top is IVIO and the bottom is ET, as well as the concentration changes from 1 to 10,000 to 1 to 1,000. You'll also notice that it says 0.1 milliliters per kilogram of epinephrine, followed by 0.01 milligrams per kilogram of epinephrine. The reason it's showing to you in milliliters is that we always get the answer to you to the easiest answer you could possibly need in order to turn around to your patient and get to work. So we will always get anything we can into the right number of milliliters, the right number of EpiPens, anything we can do to help you get back to treating the patient and stop looking up and performing calculations. So in this case, we know the concentration of epi is 1 to 10,000, so we're able to tell you that 0.01 milligrams per kilogram is equal to 0.1 milliliters per kilogram. But you can also enter the weight. So I can say that the patient is 47 pounds, let's say, and it'll immediately calculate the amount of epinephrine I should be giving in that situation as 2.1 milliliters of epinephrine. So I can simply go over, draw that out of the vial, and give it to the patient. It can also handle kilograms instead of milliliters if I want. So I can say another patient is 22 kilograms, and it'll customize that as well. From there, you'll see that there's a little 2 in the upper right corner here. By clicking on that 2, what you'll notice is that it's been recording all the information I've been typing in. So it knows now that I'm dealing with an 8-year-old patient that's 22 kilograms. As I go to type in any new search queries after this, it'll keep that patient in there until I type something else into the search engine, or I change it in here, which I can do by typing something in manually. Let's say I change this to 52 pounds. Or by typing it into the search bar. Lastly, if I don't want to just do age, as in if I know the age, I can also do the date of birth. So if you get the DOB from someone, you can simply type that in. So let's say it's my date of birth. Just by hitting done, my age pops up. And when I hit apply, is now calibrated to that individual. From there, let's do another search query. So let's say I have a patient with chest pain, and I want to give them fentanyl. When I type in chest pain fentanyl, I get a dose of fentanyl. But let's say that they're 200 pounds. So it tells me that the amount of fentanyl is 1.8 milliliters. However, let's say I got that wrong and say, oh, I messed that up. They're actually 300 pounds. Well, as you can see, the fentanyl didn't go up much, so there must be something going on. I can actually click on the fentanyl, and I get this dose card, this dose detail page. On this page, you can see all sorts of information on the dose you saw on the other screen. So I can see that there's a reversal agent, I can see that this is medical control, but I can also come down here and see live equations. So I can see that 300-pound patient is 136 kilograms. 136 kilograms multiplied by 1 mic per kilo that my protocol tells me about means I'm supposed to give 136 mics, but that the max allowed in the protocol says 100 mics. Therefore, 100 mics times 15 mics per milliliter, which is the vial of fentanyl I carry on my ambulance, gives me 2 milliliters of fentanyl. While we're on this page, it's also important to note that anything in yellow that you see on the previous screen within the search results will be displayed here in detail. So that can be a reversal agent, that can be a condition of use, but on top of that, you'll also see any notes that you have on this particular dose, so any other instructions that the protocol set wanted you to have. If for any reason you think that something's off or you want to see the full protocol, you can look in the upper left corner here where you see the little picture of a piece of paper, and you can click on it, and it'll take you to the exact protocol that we pulled this information from. Lastly, it's important to note that when we do this search, not only do you get the dose information, but you also get the protocols that are relevant to this. So chest pain protocol, both from ALS and BLS, local hospitals, as well as information on the fentanyl that you would normally see in Browse. So here's all the information on fentanyl that we have as well. Clearing all this out, let's do one final query. Let's say I have a patient that we just got back from cardiac arrest. So let's say we have a ROSC patient, and that ROSC patient I want to give dopamine to, and that they weigh 150 pounds. By typing all this in, we get an infusion dose. With an infusion dose, you can not only see the standard dose up top, which is now 1 drip every 2 seconds up to 4 drips every 2 seconds for that 5 to 20 micrograms per kilogram per minute, but you can also see how to put this together. So you can see you're going to drop 5 milliliters of dopamine from your vial, mix it with a liter bag of saline, and run it through a 20 drip set. Now, the reason we've picked those numbers is that it's looked through every single saline bag that you have on your ambulance and every drip set you carry. And it is combining the saline bag with the drip set to give you the optimal number for drips. So we try to avoid ever giving you a dose like 5 drips every 7 seconds. We always try to give you an easy count out. For example, in this case, 1 drip every 2 seconds up to 4 drips every 2 seconds by picking the liter bag and the 20 drip set. If for some reason you don't have those or you want to use something else, you can simply click on either one of these and select something different. So let's say I didn't happen to have the 20 drip set with me that day. I picked up a 15 drip set from the hospital instead when I was on my last call. I can click that, click apply, and it'll automatically recalculate which saline bag I need in that situation. If I want to lock both the saline bag and the drip set, I simply click on the saline bag and alter the saline bag as well. You'll also note down here that if for some reason you have a completely different saline bag than one you normally carry on your ambulance, you can simply type in any amount you want. And so that's it. A few other things to note about Muru before we finish. Everything here is using natural language search, which means no matter how you type in the question, the search engine will figure it out and give you the proper result. It's also offline, meaning that when you initially log in, you'll get this big download screen that shows you, that puts all the information that you need onto your phone. So now the phone can be used offline for as long as you need. And it's incredibly fast, right? No matter what search we pull up, no matter what's going on, because it doesn't need internet connectivity, it'll always give you that answer as fast as humanly possible. So this is a brief overview of everything that does. There's a lot of other features in here. A lot of new features will be coming out over time, but I hope you liked it, and thank you again for using Muru.